Welcome back to another episode of Coming Out. Today we have gubernatorial candidate Dotie Joseph. Dotie, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming today and being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
There's a lot to discuss. Let's first get the informational stuff away. Tell us who you are and, why you're running.
Sure. So I am Dotie Joseph, and I am running to be the next governor of Florida. A little bit about me. I was born in Haiti, raised in Miami-Dade County, public schools all throughout, Yale undergrad, Georgetown Law. And, my experience with public service has been interesting. I have seen how government can work for the people and how it doesn't. So let me break that down a little bit further. So
go ahead.
I grew up here in Miami, and during high school, I decided I wanted to, let me back up. As an immigrant, there's like a handful of professions that, we get to pick from. What are they? Doctor, nurse, lawyer, engineer, and then maybe professor. Like literally that's it. That's your menu. So the one that was selected for me early on was law. So I figured I'd test it out. And I interned at the Miami-Dade Public Defender's Office. And the woman that I worked for, like, bless her heart, she poured her heart out working for these people. But this was back in the days of the crack cocaine epidemic. And we see a very different response now with the opioid epidemic. But what I saw was a lot of people going to jail that just needed medical attention. And it broke my heart. So I wrote off being a lawyer. Then I graduated from high school, went to Yale undergrad. While I was there, I interned for a congressman. And first I interned at the district office here in South Florida. And I loved helping people fix their problems, constituent services, making the agencies work for them. Like that part, that was good to me.
Real advocacy work.
Real stuff, actually fixing things for people, right? Making government work for you. What a concept. But then they invited me to work over the summer on Capitol Hill. And I got a front row seat to see how our democracy didn't function. And can I tell you, I was so disillusioned, I wrote off politics.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. So I graduated, took some time off. I was able to intern with former President Jimmy Carter in Atlanta. And with him, I focused on Latin America, the Caribbean, and West Africa, mostly democracy development work and supporting organizations on the ground. And can I tell you, this man and his wife restored my faith in what a public servant could be. People who are they're doing the work, not for a title, not for self-aggrandizement, not with any white savior complex, but just because the work needed to be done and he wanted to help people. So I was like, this I could do. I could be a track 2 diplomat, hang out in the background. You never need to know I exist. Perfect for an introvert like me. Yes, I'm an introvert. And then
I would never know.
I know. I have to turn it on and off, but so I did a program in The Hague in mediation and conflict resolution. And when I was done with that, my mentors were like, you're interested, not even interested, you're passionate about civil rights and human rights. You really need to consider law school. So I sucked it up and I went to law school. I went to Georgetown. While I was there,
not a bad gig.
Not too bad.
No.
Not too shabby.
No.
Decent schools.
Yeah.
And then while I was there, a lot of my friends were making big bucks at fancy firms, and I was out doing the Lord's work, civil rights and human rights. So I worked at the National Lawyers Committee, interned at the National Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under the Law, doing voting rights stuff. I helped co-author the manual that organizations used to use. Some of them may still use to register voters across the country. That was one. 2, I interned at the it was actually an externship with the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division. And back then we were making sure that people who didn't speak English as a primary language could access services for people.
Wow.
What a night and day turn with our DOJ now, but that is what it is. And then I also worked with Human Rights First. I was a Frankel Fellow for them. So all of that was in law school. During the summers, I would do human rights stuff. So I worked with refugees, first with the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees in Egypt, mostly refugees from Sudan. The next summer, I worked with refugees from the Congo and Uganda, graduated from law school, clerked for a federal judge, worked for a small civil rights boutique firm where we litigated employment discrimination class actions all around the United States. I wrote some briefs that took us all the way up to the Supreme Court, and I unapologetically kicked butt.
You do? I mean,
do.
yeah, I'm impressed. I mean, I thought I knew you, but I mean, now I know you even better.
There's so much more to this cute little face.
Right? Isn't that always how it is?
So, I did that. Afterwards, I came back home to serve, back to Miami. I became the first Black attorney to work at the city of North Miami Beach as assistant city attorney, deputy city attorney, and then the interim city attorney. And then during that time period, leading up to that, people kept asking me to run for office. And my answer was a consistent no, for a whole host of reasons that, you can probably imagine. Like, politics can be a little annoying, and I have a very low tolerance for BS, and there's a lot of that in it. But anyway, during that period, I was involved in a series of car accidents, none of which were my fault, that slowed me down long enough to really take stock of my life. So at the time, I was already technically a public servant. I had a job, a six-figure income with a pension, immigrant mom's dream, right? But I knew I could be doing more. I knew I could be helping more. So to set it up, I was like, okay, I'm not ready to run for office. It's not on the front burner or even the back burner. It's just out of the trash, right, as an option. So I started to make some decisions to prepare to run, one of which was to leave that job because it was going to be hard to do what I wanted to do there. And I became a partner at a law firm. Fast forward, I become vice chair of the Miami-Dade Democratic Party. And I wasn't actively trying to be a candidate myself. I was trying to recruit candidates because we know we always need good candidates. By the way, if you're thinking about running for office, feel free to reach out to me. I love to mentor people. Oh, you are? Okay, so we're going to talk some more. So because we need good people in office, people who can connect with people and they're not there just because they want to run or, they're looking for attention. Anyway, that's a different discussion. Let me focus. But that's just it. Like, you need people who can focus not just on them, but on people.
Right.
I think that's the important part.
And not be selfish about it and not be always wanting to, what's in it for me?
Exactly. Like, if that's your approach, then should you really be in office? Right. But then again, that's a lot of people in office. So, whatever.
So then you run for what
so then I ran for state representative. Okay. And after I couldn't get some people to run, and I decided to step up. And I'm kind of in a similar situation.
You couldn't get people to run, so you decide to run.
Correct.
And you take the...
Correct. So there was at the time, so there was a gentleman who was serving in the seat that I have now, and I loved him, and he, I think, was a great guy, and I think he was very well intentioned. Unfortunately, some of his votes and some of the things that he did were selling out our community. Okay. I think he thought he was doing well, and I think he meant well, but all of that said, I decided to step up and offer an alternative. I feel like this is a recurring theme in my life right now, but so that's what happened the first time. I stepped up, I won, and I've been serving in the legislature ever since. So this is my 8th year in the Florida legislature. So you're termed out? I am termed out, thank God. Okay. But I thought that meant I was going to get a break until all of this happened. So we're going to get into all of this. But I was looking forward to a break.
You're looking for a break, but that's the least you got. What has been the most challenging that you're most proud that you did in the State House? So
let's do most proud first, and then I'll do most challenging. Or actually, they're kind of the same. Right, being in the Democratic Party, you're in the minority in the legislature. So everything you get passed has to have bipartisan support. A couple things that I am most proud of. One of the first bills I got passed was a bill to protect survivors of domestic violence. So before I got elected, a lot of advocates were telling me that some of the two biggest challenges women, mostly women, it's not just women, have when they're trying to leave a domestic violence situation is where are they going to live and how are they going to, take care of themselves and their family. So the where they live, you can usually find a shelter or a family member or friend to take you in. So that's one. But the other one was, how are you going to pay for things? So I got an exception to the unemployment compensation law, so that if you have to leave your job because of a domestic violence situation, you could still qualify, because that perpetrator will know where you work. So if you're able to escape and then he shows up at your job, then what are you going to do? Right. And now everybody at the job, the workplace is at risk. So I was able to negotiate that. And that's been law ever since. Similar to that is, when there's a no contact order that a judge issues, but the perpetrator continues to contact you, your instinct is to record. Under Florida law, it's a two-party consent state, so you can't go around recording people without their permission. So in the process of trying to protect yourself, you used to make yourself subject to criminal violation, right? And now you could be prosecuted because you're trying to protect yourself. So that didn't make sense. So I created an exception in Florida law so that you could record your abuser who's contacting you in violation of a no-contact order issued by a judge, right? And it's only can be used for that purpose, not for anything else, but for that purpose. So those are two little ones. Some bigger ones are, I partnered with Juan Fernandez Barquin, a Republican here in South Florida, and we were able to get a claims bill passed. For those who don't know what a claims bill is, if you sue a municipality, there's a cap on how much you can get. In order to exceed the cap, you need to get a claims bill approved by the Florida legislature. So there was a young man, victim of police brutality. The police shot him in the back. He got paralyzed. He did everything he was supposed to do. He filed a claim, went through litigation, got a judgment, $6 million, and the municipality was just not trying to pay out. So we stepped in to get that through the legislature. And at the time, in the history of the Florida legislature, there had only been maybe 15 claims bills passed. Now they're more, you see them more often, but that was one of the first ones that opened it recently. And we were able to give him access to that judgment. So that's one. Another is extending postpartum care from 30 days to a year to make sure that women continue to get coverage. I can go on. Like I've done a lot.
That's what we have time for. To see your progress in the legislature and how that's leading to you becoming a governor.
Yeah, like in the courts, making sure you have access to language services. Making sure that we had $9 million allocated to address healthcare disparities. These are things that I got passed. Not, I'm not talking about them. They actually passed. Right. And lowering the cost to access insulin. But there are things that I filed that haven't gotten passed that are still important to me. Like I filed the Equal Rights Amendment to make sure that men and women are treated equally under the law, to have Florida ratify that. That's at the federal level. I filed, common sense gun reform that has been,
common sense reform. That's
good. It would be good to have universal background checks, and that's something that gun owners agree on across political aisles. But Tallahassee wasn't trying to hear it, so it didn't happen.
How does a Haitian woman get anything passed in Florida's House of Representatives? You're a minority.
Look at me, hear me. That's just what I do. I get things done. Yeah.
You take control of the situation.
I don't know if it's secret sauce. It's persistence. It's, talking to people, trying to find common ground when you can, being ready to fight when you have to. Like even the one I told you to get the exception to allow victims to record their abusers. I had to take on some people within my own party. I didn't get it passed the first time. It took another year for me to fight to get it done because there were some people blocking it for, whatever reason. So you need somebody who cares about their convictions, can connect with people, because I think at the end of the day, regardless of your skin color, your ethnicity, whatever, we all want the same things. We all want the freedom to be healthy, prosperous, and safe, right? So if you speak to those issues and you're just real, I think people feel that and they're willing to work with you. That's been harder, in recent years with the politicization that's been happening. But I am a firm believer of if you don't try, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right?
Totally.
I had a high school teacher named Mr. Budson. I went to design and architecture senior high, so my background's in fashion design and like art. And I remember him telling us in high school that, whatever it is, you always give yourself a shot, because there's going to be plenty of people to close the door on you. You never close the door on yourself, right?
And sometimes we're our worst own enemies, because we do close those doors before they even open.
Yeah, I mean, and that's just it. Like, don't be your own worst enemy, right? Give people the opportunity to be awesome themselves, and you be awesome yourself. I feel like a lot of times we're in a society that makes us feel like we need to be less than or whatever. I ain't got time for that. Like, I'm awesome and I know it, right? And I believe that other people are awesome, and sometimes they need to know it. So I'm a firm believer of empowering people. I don't know if it's because my dad's a pastor or what, but like, I believe that every single human being on the face of this earth, every single one, has certain like innate talents, gifts, and abilities that if you tap into them, the whole world will be a better place. There's a reason you're here in this moment on this timeline. And if you take your light and you hide it under the table, everybody's going to be a little bit dimmer and darker because you didn't shine your light. So I encourage people to just shine their light.
And I've always thought that, we take advantage of the moment, because sometimes we don't get to
Correct.
repeat, so
correct.
So it's like, gotta jump on it,
Correct. All we have is now. Yesterday is gone. Tomorrow may never get here. You have right now. Whatever it is that you think you really want to do, like, make a plan and just execute.
So now you're running for governor.
I am.
And was that in your plan?
No, that was not on my bingo card at all.
And how did you get there?
So, let me see. The short version is the weekend before, for a while before qualifying, people had reached out for me to run for something. They're like, you can't just like go retire. You have to like do something. I was like, no, actually, I'm good. I'm okay. But, they were trying to get me to run for Congress or run for governor. And I was like, no, I'm good. But then the weekend before qualifying, people were like, listen, we need a different gubernatorial candidate. I was like, what are you talking about? Jerry Demings is in the race. And they're like, no, he had to get out. I was like, what do you mean? Apparently he had some health issues. He had a cancer diagnosis, so he had to step out to take care of that. So, little reminder for folks, please get yourself your annual checks, prostate, breast, all the checks. Just do your checks, please. And so he had to step out of the race to take care of that. And so a friend suggested I reach out to him to see what's going on. And I did. And let's just say he told me some things about the current candidate who became a Democrat maybe 14 months ago, and then within weeks filed to run for governor, and some things about his record as a Republican congressman that just gave me a lot of pause. And then people were telling me that if he's the candidate, they're not voting. And I know that for us to have a fighting chance, we need people to turn out. We need Democrats to show up. We can't afford people not showing up just because they can't stomach voting for a Republican. And I know I have the record fighting for just about every issue that you can think of as a Democrat, as opposed to against it. And I thought it was important that we had another alternative, kind of the first time like I ran too. So I'm here to give people a choice to vote for someone who is not new to this. I'm true to this. Like, I'm not a Democrat out of convenience. I'm a Democrat out of conviction. And I know sometimes the whole party thing, Democrat, Republican, has all these connotations. If I were to boil it down even further, I am here for the people, right? And I don't care which party it is. I'll stand against whoever that is if they're pushing for something that has an adverse impact on the least of these, like the most vulnerable. That's how I judge policy. What is the impact on the poorest people, the people who can't afford to send a lobbyist to Tallahassee? And if you are not with the people, I'm not with you.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is your platform? What do you like most
Sure.
passionate about for governor?
3 points. My platform, first of all, is making Florida affordable for everyone, not just the 1%. People across the state and probably across the country are working hard and still not able to make ends meet. And that should not be the case in this so-called developed country, right? You should be able to still have access to the American dream. That's why a lot of us came here. And whether you were native born or, you came here from another country, I think it's important for that to still be accessible to people. And so what I want to do is I want to lower costs across the board: housing, healthcare, gas, groceries, insurance. And this is not just, me saying talking points. These are things that I've actually filed things in the legislature to accomplish.
So you have a record.
I have a record of it. Okay. This is not new for me. And there are ways that we can do it. That's number one. Layered in that is, when we're talking about affordable, some things is lowering the costs, right? But another component of that is increasing what people are bringing in. I know that some of my colleagues right now are trying to undermine the $15 minimum wage that Democrats, Republicans, and NPAs voted for, right? I would veto any efforts for that, but I want to take it a step further and raise the wage to $20 an hour. And Florida state workers have some of the worst pay rates in the entire country, if not dead last. So I definitely want to raise wages for our state workers. That would be within my power to do as a governor.
It's interesting. $15 an hour is like $32,000 a year.
It's like nothing.
And what do you do with that?
Dude, it's not enough. So I want to raise it, right? I want some radical things. You want some radical things? Here's my radical things. I want free tuition for people who get admitted to our state colleges and universities and can't afford it. At Yale, that wasn't when I was there, but since then, a lot of these Ivy League schools, they allow for that. If you're able to get into the school, they'll make sure that you can attend, right? We should be able to do that in Florida. There's money in the budget to do it, right? I want free lunch and breakfast for students. Why can't we do that? Childcare doesn't seem like a big deal, but it's a huge deal for families. I want to have a childcare fund that we can have so that people, if they need to go to work, they can still afford childcare for low-income families. So I'll stop. So affordability, that's one, because I can go and I can do this all day.
That's why you're here.
Right. The second thing is protecting our civil rights, right? And what's left of our little democracy.
Exactly, what's left.
What's left. It's been under all kinds of attacks. And I want to make sure that I do what I can with my civil rights background to not just protect the people, but proactively fix things that we know are wrong. For example, Democrats, Republicans, and NPAs voted to restore voting rights for our returning citizens, right? But I've watched as Republican leadership in Tallahassee have looked for ways to undermine even that and to even go after people trying to exercise their right to vote. So I worked with the League of Women Voters to develop legislation to provide clarity so people know, can they vote, can they not vote, right? Nobody's trying to mess themselves up. Why would we do that? To me, that's just such a no-brainer. But for some reason, we know the reason. They don't want people to vote. They don't care about your vote. And when I say they, I'm talking about Republicans in charge. They don't care if you vote, right? They'd rather
you not vote.
Yeah, because then they could just do what they want to do.
Exactly.
Which is super corrupt. But anyway, all right. But we've had 3 decades of Republican rule here in Florida. And what has that gotten us? Everything is more expensive. And they're playing these games. So the third thing, separate from protecting our rights, is less hate and more love. Right? Because they are so focused on these culture wars here and these foreign wars abroad. People are tired of it. It's time to focus on us here at home. We have real needs. We need to focus on what we need. And for me, that means loving thy neighbor, not hating them and hunting them down and deporting them. It means feeding the hungry. It means, all the things that I believed in growing up, then I think a lot of us believed in. But somehow, with these political games, somehow hate is cool. That's wild.
And I'm going to ask you, because this touches me personally.
Let's go.
Senate Bill 1134, the anti-DEI bill. It impacts everybody, including women, Hispanics, Haitians,
Everybody.
everybody.
Yeah.
So who is it benefiting? So really, we gotta look at to where are we headed?
It's a rollback.
And these 30 years, yes,
it's
totally.
a rollback. They want to take us back to like Jim Crow days, and probably worse. Some people are afraid to compete on an even playing field. They don't want the playing field even. Some people,
but nobody's putting even within their own party, they're not even giving them the pushback. They're being impacted. Hispanics are going to be impacted by 1134. Haitians, women, all of us, LGBTQ, everybody. No one's giving them a pushback. Everybody's like, okay.
No, there's been lots of pushback. I don't know if you watch what happens in the Florida legislature, but we debate all day long.
And there, yes, but like here locally, there's like, oh, hands off,
I can't speak to what local officials do or don't do. I know that me and my colleagues stand up, and I feel like some people get it and some people don't, right? And what do I mean by that? I feel like if we take, for example, the civil rights movement, sure, it was led by a lot of Black people, but other people layered into that. You had the Rainbow Push Coalition, where you had other organizations stand up, Mexican organizations, Puerto Rican organizations, some Asian organizations recognize that when we put our heads together, that we're stronger that way, and that the same kind of forces that are attacking us are attacking all of us. And whether we're talking about the freedom rides or any of those kinds of things to kind of help push and move the needle, those are the things that we need now. We need that solidarity. And to be clear, I'm not saying it's white people versus everybody else. It's not, right? It's white supremacy or racism or anything that treats people differently based on their race, their gender, their religion. Like, all of those things are not cool, right? People are people, and we should treat people equally, right? We should recognize where there may be things that we need to do to have more equity. Sure. That's what DEI is supposed to, diversity, equity, inclusion. Which one of those words do you have a problem with, right?
How can you speak about Miami-Dade County or the state of Florida without including diversity? I mean, there's just no way around it.
There isn't. But for some people, they'd be okay just erasing diversity out of the equation, and they're actively trying to do that. But I believe that there are more people who believe in love than have bought into the hate. And I believe that ultimately love will conquer, and we need to stay the course and be just as active as those people who are peddling hate. I think in our hearts, we all feel the need to have something different, and it's up to us to do something different.
When we talk about love and we talk about hate and all that, it's not really, it's on a compassion level, an empathy level, and I think that we've gotten rid of that.
Well, not we. I think some people have made empathy not cool. Like, politically, they think it's not cool, or it's this toxic masculinity that pours over into like politics. But I think empathetic people who are connected, who understand that we're all connected, understand that empathy is not just normal, but necessary. And without empathy, like, what are you actually doing? Are you just a sociopath? Right? Like, you're completely devoid of empathy, and that comes with its own issues. So what that looks like in terms of policy for me, like, take, for example, the big ugly bill and all of the ramification that it's going to have throughout the country, the expiration of the Affordable Care Act subsidies. People are going to lose coverage. And what that's going to look like in the state of Florida is you're going to have hospitals that are going to close, and that's on top of all the private equity firms that are buying up hospitals and doing that kind of damage. But you're going to have rural areas that are just going to be worse in terms of having providers to service people, right? The people who are going to be impacted the most are probably going to be a lot of Republicans. And we have a tremendous amount of seniors in this state. We need a governor who understands what's coming down the pike and what we need to do to make sure that we have a safety net for these people. Because some of these colleagues across the aisle don't care what happens. They don't care if you can afford your emergency room bill. They don't care about your long-term health care. Like, they don't care about that. There's a reason we have Social Security and Medicare at the federal level. That's because of what was going on with our seniors before. So if you forget those lessons because you're catering to billionaires, then you won't understand the plight of the people. And the plight of the people is Democrat, Republican, and everybody in between, because there are seniors across the board in all of those categories. So you need a governor, like, you may not like, let's say you don't like black people or you don't like Democrats or whatever. You don't need to like me to vote for me. What you need to know is that I've got your back and somebody else doesn't. And that's the reality of where we are right now.
You know, our reality is scary, though. Mm-hmm. It's a very scary times to be living here and to be part of it. And, you know, my hat goes out to you for being 8 years in Tallahassee, mm-hmm. and more now, mm-hmm. as you'll get elected, you know, governor. Mm-hmm. How do you change that? Well,
I mean, what you focus on is what you get more of. So yes, there are challenging things going on in the United States and around the world. And those things are real. That being said, we need to have hope, and not just hope. We need to turn the page. Like, we can co-create the Florida that we want. We don't have to stay in this Republican nightmare. We can turn the page and have a Florida that we're proud of, that we don't feel like we have to leave because we can't afford it. That, you know, when students go away for school, they feel like they can come back and that they don't have to stay away. Like, we can build a Florida, like, we can have nice things too. Like, we see it happen in other states. We can do those things here too. It doesn't have to be this way. We don't have to suffer with unaffordable health care, housing, insurance. Like, we can have an affordable Florida. You just need a governor who has the cojones to do what's necessary, politically and otherwise, to care for the people, to mete out love instead of hate in our policy. We can have a government that works for the people rather than against us. It's possible.
It is possible. You know, there's so many items that we could continue discussing here today. You know, as we close, mm-hmm. what do you leave us with? A message of what?
So I leave you with a message of, think about the Florida that you want. Like, take some time and really envision it. What is not working now that you wish would be different? How would you have it be different? And come build that with me. Like, we don't have to stay stuck in this nightmare. We can wake up and dream new dreams, right? And we can make that our new reality. We don't have to give up on Florida. A lot of the U.S. has already given up on us. If they could, they'd saw us off and we'd float off into the sea. But I want to hold her. I think Florida's worth fighting for. I'm reeling her in, right? Whether we're talking about our environment, we're ground zero for climate change, whether we're talking about how we care for people, there's so many things that we could do differently. And with your support and your vote, we can do it. So, you know, I'm going to ask people to check out DotieJoseph.com. That's DOTIE, just one T, Joseph.com. And if you like what you hear, drop me a little contribution, right? Campaigns are expensive. But you can also volunteer, right? Like, if you want to help me make some phone calls, or you just let your friends know about me. Hey, there's this awesome young lady and she is the truth. Like, she actually cares about people and she's trying to, you know, not only she's trying to do stuff, she's been doing stuff. She didn't just show up. Like, I'm not new to this. I'm true to this. So let them know about me and have them. People are voting right now by mail.
Yes.
Look for Dotie Joseph for governor. Bubble me in. Check out Angie Nixon and a whole bunch of other really cool people who are running for office right now. Like, we can have nice things too. Put me in.
On that note, we're going to call it a quits for today, but we always welcome you back, and you're always welcome here at Community News and on Coming Out. So thank you for joining us. Until next time.
Thank you.